Now, I just did that criticism. At no point did I have to mention this guy's sexuality. At no point did I need to mention the fact that the dude's gay. At no point did the part that says I'm the gay Democrat need to come into my criticism. I want to talk to you guys about this. And so what I'm showing you right now is a Democrat that is running against Lauren Boebert. Okay, wonderful. I want to see people run against Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert is one of the most far-right Republicans within the Republican Party. Somebody you most certainly would like to see get removed from Congress. I support Democrats generally against every Republican running. I would like to see the Democratic House majority increase. I would like to see the Democrat Senate majority go from 50-50 to 52, 53, 54, so we can, pass more legislation. I want to see more Democratic Supreme Court appointments. And so beating someone like Lauren Boebert, wonderful. Love to see people running against Lauren Boebert, even if his odds are probably pretty slim. As far as I know about this guy isn't doesn't have a massive following. He is not very extremely wealthy from what I know, but I like to see people throw their hats in the ring in order to beat Republicans. He decided, for whatever reason, to make a post about, running against Lauren Boebert, and specifically about, more progressive members of the party who support things, like Medicare for all, stuff like that. And he made a very short 30-second clip on TikTok about this.
I love when people are like,
you have a moderate policy, you lost my vote.
Oh, what vote was that? Was that the vote you were going to give to some Bernie wannabe whose overkill policies are unpopular with 75% of voters, just so you could feel good about yourself until they lose the general election, at which point you'll point your finger and blame someone else? That vote? Oh, honey, your vote got lost a long time ago. Democrats need to wake up. Jesus, in order to legislate, we have to win. Go to walkerforcolorado.com and stop complaining. Woo!
Okay, so I could not create a more smarmy, out of touch feeling political message to be pumping out while you're on the campaign trail. If this was something he said and he was like a streamer, or this was years before he ran for office, I'd be like, okay, while I might disagree with him on this, this, and that, this isn't just terrible optics for a political campaign. But let me just be clear, this is terrible optics for a political campaign. Not only are you going to be alienating and with putting out a message like this, a decent size of the Democratic base across the country now, especially young voters who agree with the more, on average, at a higher rate, agree more with the Bernie wing. And you would probably need their vote in every vote you could possibly get in order to win the seat Lauren Boebert has. But you're also just talking down, just talking down to these people tremendously. If this was just some random political commentator, I wouldn't care. But if you're running for office, while you're running for office, and probably even before, but I'm more forgiving of that because, everybody, just snips back and forth on social media, just terribly smarmy. The read I get off this guy is just this very much, I'm floating above you all, I'm mightier than thou, which is the same accusation he's throwing against the Bernie Sanders wing of the party. Now, I will say there is part of this I agree with, which is that when it comes to swing areas or states that are, or districts that are more moderate or conservative leaning, you do need to be able to compromise on some of the policies you would want to see in the most blue districts. This is most evident, not actually with economic policy, which I think a lot of people would point to most evidently, because I would say that a lot of conservative districts and moderate districts are extremely pro-union. Very much would like to see expansions of the ACA and a public option, or eventually even a path to Medicare for all. But that one's more divisive because there's been a lot of messaging on the idea of hey, Medicare for all, you can't have your own personal insurance that you fought for as a union. The messaging against Medicare for all by Republicans and even certain Democrats has been very effective. But a lot of the economic ones, I would say 80 to 90% of progressive economic policies are supported by the vast majority of Americans. The things that really are the razor edge issues, which you got to be careful about, are social issues, right? If I'm going to be completely frank with you guys, if I was speaking in front of a bunch of coal miners in West Virginia, I would not open up my speech talking about neopronouns or anything surrounding, say, trans bathroom bills. And that's not to say that I don't care about stopping trans bathroom bills. That's not to say I don't care about these issues. It's just to say that you need to understand your audience and what your audience's priorities are, and you need to speak to those priorities. And then when you're in office, you can possibly legislate in favor of those progressive social policies that you didn't speak about a ton on the campaign trail, understanding that that could drive away some of your voter base. Being tactical, being careful about what type of messaging you put out in order to attract the wider base of people, since like not all districts, not all counties, not all states are the same, and they're going to have different issues. The most evident issue I would point to, this might be surprising for some Democrats in my audience or some lefty people in my audience, is gun control. Like, gun control is something you just have to be able to compromise on in a lot of these states. If you live in Texas, saying stuff like, we're going to take your AR-15 are campaign killers, okay? I'm already a generally pro-gun to like moderate on gun control already. Like, I listened to statements by Beto O'Rourke on AR-15s when he was on the presidential campaign trail, and now I see him running for governor, and all I can imagine is just campaign ads circling on him on, I'm going to take your AR-15 away. I'm going to take your AR-15 away. I'm going to take your AR-15 away. And whether or not you're a David Hogg Democrat or you're or you think that like more gun control can help stop school shootings and you know you actually need to take your AR-15 away, that might play well in certain districts of New York. That might play well in California. That's not going to play well in Texas. Point blank, period, end of paragraph. So there is some truth to what he's saying, but that some truth is like, I would say, a kernel within a veneer of smarminess that he's accusing the other side of being. He's accusing somebody of being mightier than thou and smarmy while acting as smarmy as physically possible. And I think it's reductionist because I don't think this also applies to the same extent with economic issues. I would say 90% of progressive economic issues, the vast majority of people agree with. Another example of this is that ending the drug war is largely popular, but it's considered a very progressive thing. A great example is Joe Biden's position on the drug war, or the vast majority of Republicans' position on the drug war. 197 Republicans voted against marijuana legalization. That's the majority of Republicans. Now, I just did that criticism, and at no point in this, like, hey, I agree with him a little bit here, but on this larger thing, here's why the optics on this are terrible, and here's a little bit I disagree with, right? There was like a development of dialogue, so to speak. At no point did I have to mention this guy's sexuality. At no point did I need to mention the fact that the dude's gay. At no point did the part that says I'm the gay Democrat need to come into my criticism. At all. It didn't. Especially as a left-wing person. If you're like far right and you don't like gay people and you don't like queer people where they make you uncomfortable, then you have an avenue of like criticism you can make. It's terrible criticism, but you have an avenue for criticism. At no point during anything I said did I have any reason to bring that up. A lot of people had the same reaction I did, or a different reaction, and this is what he responded to them as. This is what he said in response.
Yesterday, I got canceled for making the outrageous claim that ultra-progressive candidates can't win in blood red districts like mine, and that if you vote for one, you're throwing your vote away. Yeah. Every vote matters, but don't throw yours away on some ultra-liberal pipe dream who has no shot just to make yourself feel warm and fuzzy at night. In order to legislate, Democrats must win. And in order to win, we need to nominate candidates who represent the district and play smart with common sense policies that can win. Not some platform designed to placate your overwoke Twitter temper tantrum pipe dreams. And we need someone strong enough to stand up to the bullshit, including Lauren Boebert's bullshit, but also including the bullshit in our own party trying to tear down Democrats with a shot. TLDR, I'm not sorry, and I've got my eye on the only prize that matters.
Okay, to be completely honest, he didn't really say anything new of importance. He just basically reiterated his old point and just, same thing. He did it less smarmy. There's still some smarminess, but he did it less smarmy. But he doubled down on the same thing. Anyway, this video was then replied to by this person and a bunch of other people. And some of them, and this is something I've seen kind of like bubbling up more online, some people have started saying things like this. No one canceled you. Everyone just called you a smarmy, annoying, and then it's a cigarette. Now, if you are in Great Britain or just know about, Great Britain and what they call cigarettes there, I think you can figure out what that cigarette was supposed to represent. I would say it if I was on YouTube, but I'm on Twitch, and so we know exactly what that meant. Now, I've seen a few other people using the F slur in reference to him. I saw other people saying, like, this guy sounds like he wakes up every morning with a dick in his ass, or just some pretty, like, I would say blatant homophobia. I wanted to talk about this because this has actually happened to me on a few occasions, where I remember a while ago, I think I even made a video about it. I made like a very milquetoast meme about Garfield on the internet. Yes, a meme about, no, it wasn't Garfield. It was Bugs Bunny. I like Garfield too much. It was Bugs Bunny. Some of you might remember this. And a lot of people responded to that in a pretty homophobic way. And people will do this. It's very interesting. These disgusting white gays. Like if you put white in front of a word, then it's like okay to attack them for that. It's like putting the silencer on the F slur, right? Like you put white in front of it and it's not nearly as bad. It's perfectly fine. It's silly. It should be pretty obvious. Calling gay people derogatory slurs about them being gay is bad. I'm a little surprised I have to explain why calling people derogatory slurs is bad, but I guess I'll do that. When you do that, it creates a social stigma around gay people that is negative, that being gay is bad, and you can also be very hurtful to gay people in question. Here's the thing that people try to like, you know, get spicy with it, right? Well, the difference here is that the people criticizing them are either A, left wing, or B, gay. I don't care. I do not care at all. Why should I care? Do you think anybody reading this tweet knows if this Ben person is gay or not? I don't know if they're gay. Somebody later told me they're gay, but do you think that impacts if a random person on Twitter sees this tweet, if they're like, I can tell from just reading this tweet that the person making this is gay, and so they don't mean it in a homophobic way when they call them the F slur, they mean it in a not homophobic, I don't even know how you would mean it in a not homophobic way. I think they just want to call them the F slur. Maybe it's just like, I can't say it because I'm them, you're the bad one, right? You're the bad gay, I'm the good gay. I assume maybe it's something like that. I don't really want to make the, you can't, what's the old saying? You can't make sense of nonsense is the old boomer saying, right? And you being left wing has no bearing on it whatsoever, right? If somebody came out left wing and started calling JLP for being right wing the N-word, that would be bad because it increases the social stigmatization around black people and you're hitting a very, let's say, sore spot in American history. Gay people have been lynched with that word. Gay people have been murdered with that word, not only in the United States, but internationally. That word has been used to stigmatize them and pass laws that oppress them and outlaws homosexual activity. We all remember Stonewall. I don't need to get into like the history of oppression in the United States really that much. I think you guys all understand. It is not okay just because you're gay or because you're left wing to call gay people slurs, or really to call anyone slurs. Now somebody might say to me, well, Dylan, the difference is when they're gay, they're within the gay community, so they can make the determinations of da-da-da-da-da. Okay, again, I don't care. You are doing active harm. It's not good. I mean, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm here having to explain why calling gay people the F slur is bad. And I have to explain it to left-wingers and other queer people. I don't understand why I'm here doing this, but apparently I have to, because this has happened to me. This has happened to other gay people and other queer people and other bisexual people I know. This has happened to a bunch of people on the internet now. It's something I'm seeing more and more and more and more of, that you can go out and just calling people slurs that has been used historically to fucking slaughter them because you're gay or you're left wing, so everyone knows you're not homophobic, so that's perfectly fine. Do you think everyone reading this tweet is going to see that? You know, if some groyper stumbled upon this, there's a 90% chance they're gonna like it if they don't know you're gay. And they don't have no reason to know you're gay. They're just gonna be like, haha, he called him the F slur, and they're gonna like it. And it encourages that behavior. It's only going to be very insular internet communities that see this and there's like, this is totally normal behavior. This is totally normal, like acceptable behavior. It isn't acceptable. I don't agree with it, but I think maybe some of their logic might be taking the word back. This is the caveat I wanted to add. If you're saying it in a way that's like, oh yeah, I'm such an F slur, or you're using it kind of, you know how like people use the N word like as like a term of endearment, right? If you're saying it like that, you're taking it back. You're trying to take the power away from it. You're trying to make it so that word does not have that pain for you, and you're trying to use it as a term of endearment. That's different. That's different because you're not using it to hurt people. You're not using it as an attack. You're not attacking these sore spots that queer people have due to the history of homophobia. Gay marriage just came about in 2015, and conversion therapy is still legal in the United States. There are still anti-LGBTQ hate crimes and killings in this country, and most certainly internationally. We're seeing the grooming discourse coming about. We're seeing how people are talking about members of the LGBTQ plus community on places like Fox. For example, on Fox News, there was over 170 anti-trans stories played in just 3 weeks. And that's just anti-trans. That's not even including anti-gay or other members of the LGBTQ plus community, right? This is an active, ongoing discourse. And this is a word that people still use as a weapon. When I was at the Capitol during January 6th in my Biden hoodie, I had far-right people there yelling that word at me. And they didn't even know necessarily I was gay. They just saw my long hair. Maybe they heard my mannerisms because I do code switch a certain amount when I'm not on stream. And they didn't throw it at me in this way of like, hey, I'm left wing, I'm pro gay, or I am gay, so it's totally cool to say. No, they threw it at me because they wanted to hurt me, stab at like what they saw as a weak spot in my character, which was being gay, LGBTQ plus, queer, bi, whatever. So taking it back only works if you're like using it as a term of endearment, not as an insult. If you're using it as an insult and still as a weapon, then you're not taking it back. You're just using homophobia as a spear against other queer people. That's not taking it back. That's not a term of endearment. You're just yelling slurs or throwing slurs at queer people. Hey, everybody get your bingo cards out. Dylan brought up January 6th. True. I'm gonna bring it up all day today. Every day, I'm gonna bring up January 6th till I die. What's his policies? I'm to the point where I don't care right now. He's like a Democratic moderate. He's like a moderate, right? But again, then just go after his policies, right? Just because he speaks in a flamboyant fashion, right? Or he is like he's identifying himself as gay doesn't mean that's the thing you should attack. If anything, that is not a weak spot on his character. I don't consider it a weak spot. You're going after like the one spot about that clip that is not the weak spot. You're making yourself look worse and him look better. Like if I say, hey guys, I'm a queer Democrat running in Maryland's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever district. And my policy is that we should bring nuclear energy more to Maryland. I think we should make Maryland a nuclear energy hub. And the reasons is A, B, C, and D. And you disagree with my nuclear energy plan. And you're like, man, your nuclear energy plan is stupid, you fucking, and then you call me the F slur, right? There's a problem there. You could have just criticized my nuclear policy, but instead you just went for homophobic attacks on top of it, doing nothing but giving me ammunition, because then I could just point at you and be like, Lamau, homophobe. Now I can just say, look, it's not about my policy, is it? It's about the fact that I'm queer. Gotcha. I'm seeing more and more and more people legitimately just calling other people the F slur, not as a term of endearment, but as an actual attack. And when there's people in this country still being murdered for being queer, when we still have people internationally being murdered for being queer, oppressed for being queer, when we're still seeing like gay conversion therapy active in the United States, it's banned in Canada. We should take that policy to the United States, by the way, but it's not banned in the United States. And so I'm seeing this more and more and more. I've had it happen to me where people who are queer and or left wing use it as an attack. They don't know how that word's been used against me. They have no clue if maybe when I was a kid, I was like 12 or 13 years old and I said a boy was cute and a family member came in and just started, you fucking, and started just throwing that slur at me. The people have no clue what kind of pain I could hold to that word. Zero. Part of it, I think people just maybe want to be edgy, but this is like really weird, like, This isn't okay. This is bad. People online are trying to use all kinds of slurs more and more. The F slur, tons of ableist slurs, and phrases like schizo posting. It's increasing with time too. I think a lot of it is just like these words are just so deeply entrenched in our culture. Like some words I think can like change meaning over time. For example, dumb, right? I don't really think there's much damage done by the word dumb because I don't really feel like most people actually associate the word dumb much with like mental disabilities. More it's now associated with just levels of like being unintelligent, you know what I mean? But like words like retard, it's like very clearly like that. But like it's things we learn over time that's very hard to fall out of. I think people are just trying to find like ways around it. You know how like Iran invades sanctions by using like different bank accounts and like trying to like find subsidiaries to go through and other stuff like that or whatever. I'm not an economics expert. Maybe this is like the version of gamers like trying to avoid sanctions when it comes to slurs, right? Where they can't say the F slur anymore and they can't call people retard anymore. So now they're like evading the slur sanctions by moving over to schizo posting, you know? Spaz, exactly. That was the old one in the early 2000s. Yeah, the slur sanctions, exactly. Yeah. And I'd say Destiny would be like the mullah of avoiding these sanctions. The slur sanctions.